Okay, so we're gonna talk about content and modules. That's our topic today. So when you're in your TCU online shell, you land on your landing page. It looks like this. The content area is up here in the upper left. There are some modules built in this shell, so we can talk a little bit about things. So the first thing to notice is there's this overview unit. This is a spot where you can talk about your course learning outcomes, your course objectives. You can provide the description from the course catalog. This is some basic getting started information. Important things for students to know. If there are certain materials or whatever, you could put that there. This is an HTML window. If you click on it, you're going to get that editing box that you're familiar with. You'll notice there's also an opportunity to add an attachment. So for example, if you wanted to make a duplicate place for your syllabus, you could do that there. If there was some other paperwork, getting started paperwork that was important for the course overview, you could put that there. The second thing down on the content menu on the left are bookmarks. So these bookmarks are personal to the user in the course. Your students will not see yours or anybody else's, and nor will you be able to see theirs. So the function of this bookmarks item is really for students and maybe for you too, but the design was for students to, maybe when they are reading something or reviewing content, something they know is important that they're going to want to revisit later, that they might have difficulty finding, they can quickly add a bookmark. And we'll talk about how to do that when we add some content and we're actually looking at individual content items. You could use this if, for example, there were things going through the course one year that you realized you might want to revise for a following year, something like that. So this is sort of the quick jump area. Next is the course schedule. So there are two ways that items appear on this course schedule. The first will be if you add them as events, and we have a separate session later in late November all about calendar and announcements, and so I encourage you to come to that. The second way that items will appear in this course schedule is from due dates that you set, say on assignment drop boxes or on quizzes. Those will auto-populate here. So you can see we have one event here, which is an event that has been manually added, and that's recurring office hours. If this particular course had upcoming drop boxes or quizzes or units that were set to open, those dates would auto-populate into this course schedule as well. Next is the table of contents. So we're here now. This will list every single content item beneath here in the course. So if we scroll down, we would actually see everything, all 258 items. So the number to the right here represents the number of items underneath here in the entire course that are set with completion tracking. So that gives you some rough idea about the expectations of reading work, at least in the course. You can also sort of get some idea about what is the workload for each unit. This will tell you the pages, of course. It won't tell you the length or complexity of the assignment. But it gives you some idea about what the relative expectations are for each unit, or at least the relative workload. If you are directing students to an outside website or a source that doesn't have completion tracking, it will not show up in this number. So it's not a perfect measure, but it's a nice approximation that way. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to add some modules. I'm going to switch shells now to sort of our workshop shell. This has some nice content in there so we can take a look at it. But we're gonna move now to our sort of project shell, which is in this tab over here. So you can see that this is really where we build some examples. So we're going to add some modules. It's as easy as clicking in this window down here that says Add Module. So one of the advantages, one thing we heard from faculty as we were going through our search was we wanted it to be easy to add modules, and we wanted it to be easy to drag and drop and rearrange modules and content. And you'll certainly see that that's the case. So we really hope that we have delivered for you there. So we're going to we're going to add 3 modules. Modules are super easy to create. So we're going to call our first module kites. You can see it appears right there. The second module we're going to call sand castles. And the third module we're going to call waves. It is possible that I have the beach on my mind this morning. So we use modules. Module is the base language here, but these could be units, they could be chapters, they could be weeks. If you were teaching a face-to-face course and you use TCU Online really as a supplementary place to park additional materials, you might use these modules as types of materials. So one module might be lecture notes, a second module might be PDF articles, a third module might be exam review sheets. So you may organize these however fits your content and your teaching style, right? Once you have your module, you might want to, in theory, add some content or some dates or some restrictions. So let's take a look about how we do that. We're going to click on the module itself. You'll note that by default, it's published. That means visible to students once you have, enrolled activated the course, and that this is truly a semester course, not a master blank shell. But if students are in this particular moment, if students were in this course, the course were activated, they would see it, and we know this because it says published. If you're still working on something, maybe this is a unit later in the course, or something you're going to pull together on the weekend for the students, you can simply change the status to draft. That will mean students cannot see it, and the indicator of that will also appear here under the module title. Right, so that's a nice way to just make sure that students are seeing things that you're ready for them to see and give yourself a little breathing room to get organized. So you can think about draft as the in progress setting, right? So you can add dates and restrictions. So this would be if you wanted to date drive the opening of modules. Maybe you don't want students to work all the way through. You want to restrict their access and maybe force them to talk and focus on the discussion or the content for a particular week, and you wanted these modules to open gradually throughout the course to sort of control the pacing of the course. You can add a start date. If the module is due by a particular date, maybe you don't particularly care if students are all doing the same content at the same time, but you would like everyone to be, say, through the 5th module by the end of September, for example. You can add a due date, and remember, when you add a due date like this, that will automatically populate to the course schedule, so students will be alerted to that there. The end date is the end of access. So if there is a point when you no longer want students to view this module while the course is still active, you could set that end date. That seems less useful for an overall module, perhaps, but more useful for an assignment or a Dropbox or perhaps a particular piece of content or a discussion. You will find the same setup, start date, due date, end date, throughout your TCU Online shell. So let's add a start date. It will default to the particular day and time. We can add a due date. Let's make it 1 week from today. And I'm not a fan of end dates for units, but let's make it a little later. It is that easy. If you decided, for example, that you didn't want the end date, you could simply get rid of it like that. You will always have to enter a time, so make sure the time is the time that you want, because it will always default to the present hour and the present day. You can also add release conditions for your particular unit. So this course, I happen to know, has no release conditions set, so we're going to create one. You can click on Create. So a release condition is something that students will have to do in order to view the content, in this case, the module, right? So we can select, there are a bunch of pre-built ones. Perhaps the most useful one, or the most commonly selected one, are these ones associated with content. So maybe before students can view this particular unit on kites, I want them to visit another content, or I want them to visit all of the content before. Maybe I want them to post in a discussion. you can see there are many different choices. We'll just ask them to visit another content topic first. So we'll take visited content topic, and then we'll select the topic, and it will auto-populate with all of the choices of content topics from the modules in the course. So maybe before they can access the kites module, I would like them to have visited the web link about the New York Times. It is that easy. You will note now that this appears underneath the unit with what it is. If we decide we didn't want it, we could click on the X to remove it. We could also add multiple conditions and specify that either all conditions must be met or any condition must be met. At that point, we can hit update. And you'll notice that this information all tucks under the unit title right there. You also have the option to add a description for a unit. So this might be where you would add your learning expectations for the unit. You might remind students about particular due dates in the unit, any assignments, any materials they would need to bring, any specific access directions for content or library databases associated with that unit, right? So in this case, we'll just cut to the chase here. And you'll see that that description appears right there. So now we have a module and we need to add some content. A nice way to organize content within modules is with submodules. So for example, we could add a submodule that was videos. And here then I could add all of my videos about kites. I could add the next submodule that was readings. So you'll see that when you add the submodule, it gives the content sort of this nice segmented visual layout here, and it tucks it under here in the left-hand navigation menu. If I decided that really I wanted my students to do the readings before the videos, it would make sense then to sequence it that way. I would just drag and drop. And remember that I said one of the things that faculty really wanted was the ability to rearrange modules and content very easily. And certainly TCU Online provides that opportunity. Note that I can also do this with modules. If I decided waves should come before sandcastles, I would simply move that over there, right? Not challenging at all. If I then decide that I do not want this module, or perhaps I don't want this waves module, I'm going to do something else with this, I have the option to delete a module. And I want to point this out because there are two different delete options. So say we're in the waves module. We're going to use this context menu to the right here, this downward facing triangle. You'll see these throughout TCU Online, and they always provide more options for the particular item that you are looking at. So in this case, we're going to drop down, and we're going to choose Delete Module. You'll have two choices here. In general, you will almost always want the first one, which is to remove the module from sort of the public viewing area. You will not see it, your students will not see it, but it will still remain in sort of the active directory and database of the course. You can get it back if you have made a mistake. The second choice, and notice that as soon as you do that, it will put up that warning, is totally permanent and completely irreversible. So it will also, say you have uploaded a paper topic and associated that to a Dropbox, but then you realize by mistake you uploaded last semester's, a different course's paper topic. It would probably make more sense to switch the file, but alternately, you would probably want to choose this first one if you chose the second one, because the direction here says all associated files and activities. It would actually delete the Dropbox too and break the link. So this is sort of like the black hole delete option. In general, you're not going to want to use this one, but it does exist. It's there. So say, we're gonna do the gradual delete, the gentle delete. All we would do is click delete. And we wait. and the module is gone. Very easy. If it turned out that maybe you had so many modules in your course, you really wanted to look at everything all at once, maybe delete, maybe set some dates, maybe just see how the content was nicely sequenced, you could go to this table of contents. We happen to actually already be here because when you delete a content module, TCU Online no longer knows which page you want to look at. Presumably you don't want to look at the page you just deleted, so it will always send you to this table of contents. So here we are at the table of contents. There is a bulk edit option. If you click on that, you will see all of the editing options for every single piece of content in the course all in one place. If you want to turn published things to draft, if you want to delete things, if you want to add dates and restrictions, if you want to see how your content and your dates and restrictions all fit together all in one place, this is the place to do that and to make all of those changes on one page. It's a very, very useful page. We had something like this in Learning Studio, but it was not nearly as efficient and the visual layout was not nearly as nice. So this to me seems to be a significant improvement. When you're done making all the changes you might want to make, simply click Done Editing. That will save your changes, and you'll go back to that more viewing screen. Within individual modules, click back over here, there is always this settings option, which will let you change things within individual modules. If, for example, you wanted to have a standard content arrangement by content type, maybe all of the threaded discussions were going to be at the bottom grouped together, all of the readings were going to be at the top, you could set that automatically rather than doing the drag and drop setup. You could change the font setting and size. In general, this settings option might not be terribly useful for you. As a group, we have tried to choose default settings that make a lot of sense and leave instructors the freedom also to make a few more changes. So if you need this settings per module, it is here. If you make changes, click Save. Within a module, once your students are there and once you're there looking at it, and you click on something, it will take the full screen, right? Now your students are looking at a Dropbox where they would submit an assignment. There are some directions. If you or your students become confused, want to look at some more content, aren't sure where you are, you always have these breadcrumbs at the top, but there is also this option of a side tab here that shows everything within the unit. So let's make some content now, right? Let's go back here. Let's go back to our kites unit. We have our module kites, our two submodules, readings and videos. Let's create something. So here we are in videos. Let's create a video. The Upload Create button has lots of different options. You can see the options for upload files, create a file, create a link. We're going to do video or audio. We're going to grab this YouTube video here, get the address, put it back in here, and you'll see it'll instantly pop up a preview. That's all we need to do. You could change the title here if you had something else you wanted to direct students to a particular moment in the video, 2 minutes in, talk about whether this was a good example or a bad example. You can change the title. If you don't want to, you simply click Save. There it is. If you go back to your unit, you will see it right there. So it is that easy. The videos, the only problem with videos, and there are two problems. One is if your videos sit in a protected area, say a library database, or if your videos are copyright material that you're pulling from YouTube. If they're copyright material and you're pulling them from YouTube, say a Great Saturday Night Live skit, it is possible YouTube will take the video down, the link will break, and you will need to find a different video. You are not actually saving the video here, you're only directing students to it. So if it's gone from YouTube, your link will break. If it sits in a password protected area, like say in a library database, you're much better to direct students to how to find the video than to try to make a link. Those kinds of videos that sit behind password protection, you're not able to make a link successfully here. If we wanted to upload a file, say in the readings area, we could do that. We could simply browse. Let's see. Here is a file, some kite directions, and we just add. So that's a way you could put PDF readings there. Not difficult. If you decided you wanted to change your mind, you could delete the topic. If you wanted to edit the title, you could do that right there. I did that by edit properties in place. We could add dates, we could add restrictions, we could add a description. This is the same setup you saw up here for a module. If we wanted to create a file, you can go back over here. The create a file option is similar to that HTML window that you were more familiar with, perhaps in Learning Studio. So we could do something like this, add some material there, some content for our students, and publish it. We'll then see it in the Kite unit. If we decided Kite Basics should come before the Kite article, we could drag and drop to change that. So the idea is that this is very user-friendly, very easy. You always have that context menu here that lets you change the title, edit property in place, change the associated file. Remember we talked earlier about mistakenly uploading the wrong paper directions. You could download it if you weren't sure anymore what was going on, or you wanted to read it yourself over the weekend. You have that option. If you want to organize it this way, you can always do move down. If you have more than 3 items, then you'll see the move down, move up options. You also have the option to delete it. You'll get those same 2 choices, and remember, you generally want to choose the first one. If you have created threaded discussions, quizzes, etc., and you want to add them to your particular modules, we'll add a module called assignment, and then we'll pull from existing activities. So we'll look for an assignment. We'll take this sample submission folder, and then you can see that the Dropbox you have created will then appear sequenced with the content with which you would like to associate it for your students. So this was pulled through existing activities. As a manager of a course or the instructor, you're going to find many more options for working with the assignments, the Dropbox tool, if you access up here through the activities. And we have a whole separate training on everything in the activities tab. For now, I'm just going to tell you that if you've created threaded discussions or you've created assignments, you can pull them down through existing activities and add them to the particular module or content that you have. This kind of concludes our forced march through the modules and content creation tool. I'm going to unmute now and take questions. Again, I'm going to send a follow-up email mid-morning with more information, more training opportunities, and some other links. But right now we have a few minutes to chat, so let's ask, are there questions? Can I show you anything again? Do you have any questions about workflow in your course? Nothing?
Okay, so I've got a question. This is Diane.
Sure.
So I want the table of contents, and I want to bulk edit, and then I want to print it so that I can work with a hard copy. Is it simple as hit a bulk edit and then hit print?
Let's look. I would think so, yes. Let's see what happens. We're not actually going to print this right now, I don't think. So that's the preview. Is that about what you hope it would look like?
Yes, I guess so. Yep. That's good. Okay.
Other questions? Okay, well, thank you for attending a Power Half Hour. And you get a special prize for attending the 8 a.m. Power Half Hour. We have more of these going on until early December. We have more extended training in early December and early January. So please come see us, drop by an open lab, send us an email. We're here to help. We want you to be a success. Let us know how we can help you. And thank you for attending.
Thank you, Kate.
Bye.